GM everyone, I'm Uttam and I'm here with Zero X Princess, who has been, really active in this MEV space. So thanks a lot, Zero X Princess, for, joining this and helping us to understand more about MEV. And, in this crash course, your session would be really helpful. So, welcome and go ahead and, maybe introduce yourself and share your journey, how you got into this MEV and crypto space.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for inviting me to this podcast and your session. So we were actually MEV searching since 2020. We are like our team is doing arbitrage on Ethereum, and we have started long before PBS came out and flashbots became popular, and actually the flashbots are introduced all the PBS and the MEV term in particular, and back then everything was called just arbitrage and just we were just running boats without knowing it would be called MEV. And yeah, and so when since flashbots has have started, like I think all of the operations like got drastically less complex because and risky because before you had to send your transactions right to the mempool or transaction pool as you wish, and so and you would just if your transaction didn't land, you would actually see it reverting, and you would be paying for its fees. And like because of the high competition in this space, because there were a lot at stars liquidation bots, then arbitrage bots, and also sandwich bots. There was a huge competition in the space, and a lot of back then you would see like half of the block, up to the half of a block of just bots reverting their transactions, especially at at the top of the block. And so that's why Flashbots came out and said, like, look, we are wasting like half of the block space for just reverse transactions, and we are making it very hard for just normal people to transact in Ethereum. So let's make like we would not like to eliminate all this competition and just make it's impossible to do arbitrage liquidations, etc. But let's make it a separate environment. And they started like this. It wasn't PBS at first, so it was back in the proof of work era. But since PBS, it became really popular and commoditized. So it became widely accepted as a norm in the searcher space. So everyone are so there's like before the PBS, I think there would still be a lot of searchers and bots sending their transactions to the mempool, but especially long tail ones. But I think now, like 99% of all MEV related transactions are being sent to the flashbots. And it became so popular that this practice of having such environments became widespread to other chains as well. So we can see other, not I would not say like Flashbots copycats, but other projects that are trying to make environments for auctions for for the block space. So you have and they're like integrating order flow and the block space from the validator side into the one environment. So there's a Polygon fast lane, for example, on Polygon. I think yeah, you know that, and that's like a great auction with a very different design than Flashbots, and it actually much more constrained, and it's better in a sense that it doesn't allow sandwiches to occur. Uh, yeah, and it's like very it's great in this case. So there's also wall chain on many networks, I think live. It's not really a block space auction, but it's an order flow auction that's also very similar. It just integrates with the apps. uh, right in their UI, and it connects like users directly to searchers. Yeah, and there's also Bloxroute, who's operating on BSC. They're building blocks in the same manner as Flashbots are doing on Ethereum. And yeah, and their auction is very, very similar. It's, I think, Flashbots compatible totally. And yeah, so we see the rise of these kind of environments since Flashbots have popularized and like got adopted by the industry. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, awesome. So, can you also just go deep dive into your working day to day? What do you work on? What are you working on currently? Do you have a team, or if you can share that?
Yeah, so we are working like for we are making arbiters bots. So we have like only one strategy. So there's because we are like there's there's a huge piece called MEV, and we can like separate it for multiple like pieces. And the largest piece is a stat arbitrage that connects CFI and DeFi. So yeah, and then there comes sandwiches. That's a that's called hostile MEV. So the sandwich, because it actually makes users execution worse, because it sandwiches the user's transaction and affects user's execution price. So and then there's background arbitrage. So so when you're placing a transaction behind the user's rate, yeah, so users trading on some pools, AMM pools usually, or it creates some order on in the order book, and your background and this order makes it affects the price in these pools that users is using, but it often, very often, other pools remain unaffected. And you can it basically creates an arbitrage window, so you can place your own transaction to balance the price in these pools. Yeah, and that's not hostile. That's actually very good like thing in the space, because it makes price in all dexes the same basically, and it balances it. So other users that will be trading on these tokens will not have to compare all these prices in all different dexes to see which price is better. They can just come to any liquid to any dex with liquid pools and just do their trades without worrying about the price. Yeah, and so that was what we're actually doing. It's the I think, and so the competition for these pieces is very it pretty much correlates with their like market share. So the larger the piece, the more competitive it is. Mhm. And so the background arbitrage is the second, I think, most competitive piece. And like so, unlike many searcher teams, we're not doing the so-called long tail arbitrage, but we are just focusing on this one particular strategy, which is backgrounding user order flow, and doing an arbitrage in the same block.
So yeah, my second question was actually really about this MEV current landscape, right? So right now, like if anybody who is who is now interested in MEV, he's just entered into this space, right? So what will be a good advice from your side in terms of becoming a searcher, or maybe they should become a builder, or they should become both, or like what will be your advice? These days I've seen specifically searchers focus on particular apps, like recently there was friend attacks. I've seen the static stats of MEV there. So what's your advice? Go ahead.
So what I think actually, yeah, and that if you are a solo searcher, and you do not have lots of resources to start with, and you don't have any capital, you don't have any relevant experience from the past, I think it would be easier to do this long tail arbitrage, focusing on not very competitive chains or not very the new apps. So basically, you are betting that these apps will become popular enough, so you'll start making a revenue before everyone else. Because large searchers like us, we are focusing on apps that are already popular, and so there's always a room for small searchers to hop on this train before it gets some traction. So as with friend.tech, the first bots appeared, I think, even like in the first 20 hours like of when it came live, because it used very simple APIs. Yeah, because I too checked this. I wanted to make a bot, a simple bot for friend.tech, and it is very simple APIs. It was very simple to actually create a bot in like literally hours. And so users who like registered and who made their bots fast, they profited a lot when it became really popular, because friend of text became, like, I think, much more popular and everyone have been expecting it to be. And yeah, and yeah, those who hoped early, they've like earned pretty much a lot of revenue. So yeah, and MEV Stall Searcher, you should target apps like that. You should target chains like that. So and it would not be like a good volume, or it will not be a good revenue unless the app will become popular. But it's a good start. So and I think it's the only viable option for someone to get an experience for like the actual searching experience, because there's a lot of like places where you can get make mistakes, and there's a lot of like it's very complex. Like usually MEV, it's because it requires you to be very knowledgeable in execution clients, in how consensus on particular chain works. So, for example, searching on Ethereum and searching on BSC is two very different beasts, because the consensus on BSC is wildly different than the one from Ethereum. Yeah, because if you send transaction on BSC, you would not be included in the next block, but in 2 blocks after the current block. Yeah, and so previously you had to predict, and you still have to predict what the next block will be, and because you're actually targeted not this block but the block after it. And like that's a very like a complex topic, and there's a lot of other chains. For example, the Avalanche that has it actually has a private mempool that actually is not available for normal people running clients. You have to be the validator to have access to the mempool, and so every chain has a lot of nuances. And if you're a searcher, if you're starting as a searcher, it's both. It is. I think it's mostly positive thing for you, because it's what it actually gatekeeps other teams, large teams that are already competing on large chains to enter. So they're not entering other chains because of these nuances. And these nuances will also help you to get a hands-on experience of participating in like this market. So yeah, I think you should target these long tail opportunities if you're starting. So that's my like general advice. But otherwise, if you want to have sandwiches or arbitrage, that's the most like because these are the most popular topics. Everyone's talking about sandwiches. Everyone says, look, these bots are making like millions in profits. Like look at the Jared from Subway, and etc. etc. So and everyone wants to be the next Jared, right? So they do not want to like have to make a ramen profitable bots, right? To make like hundreds of dollars per month. They want to make millions right away. And that's the common mistake like people are making, because these are highly competitive like niches, and they are not a great like place to start. Yeah.
So I've actually heard somewhere that like 50 to 60% of the job is to reduce latency, and the rest is code optimization. Like, is that true?
It depends on the chain again. So, yeah, on Binance Smart Chain on BSC, for example, where we also operate, um, so the latency, I think, is one of the greatest things that you're optimizing for. It's not now. It's not that crucial since Blockshroud came with their own block auction. But before, when everyone were operating in transaction pool, the latency was very, very, very important, and especially because that Binance had a lot of pools. They had much more tokens than there's on Ethereum. So I think now it has literally like millions of pairs deployed. Like that's that's a huge number, because on Ethereum you cannot imagine that much of the Uniswap pools being deployed, but on like Binance Smart Chain, where all the fees are negligible, you can like easily deploy. And so all the like shitcoin makers, creators, devs, they are spamming these pairs like crazy. And so there's like 10, I think maybe tens of thousands of new pools created each day on Binance Smart Chain. And so there's a lot of room for optimization, because you have to make a bot that would actually be able to process all these pairs. And yeah, and so the latency, so because the block is only 3 seconds on Binance Smart Chain, you have to be able to process like hundreds of millions of like arbitrage cycles in just a matter of like milliseconds, to be able to place your own transaction there before everyone else. So that's a huge factor in such chains. But on Ethereum, I think it's not that crucial, especially if you're starting, if you're like middle like searcher, yeah, the average searcher, and so the latency is not the first thing you're targeting for. So your first target, if you're starting, is to actually have proof of concept that works, because there's a lot of points of failure there, and you have to you can make mistake literally everywhere. So you can make mistakes in the contracts that makes your solution revert on chain. You can like make wrong bundles that would revert. You can make wrong computations, wrong optimizations on off chain. I mean optimizations that are optimizing for parameters that you would pass in the smart contract, such as amount in, if you are doing arbitrage, for example. So amount of tokens you're actually be swapping in this arbitrage cycle. So all the so what you're targeting on Ethereum is to make just the bot that works, and that works in a matter of 12 seconds. So and that's already hard. Believe that. It's not that easy, because our first bot, I think, our first proof of concept that we made, I think, it made all these computations, I think, way like for way longer time than 30 seconds. So we computed all our arbitrage rides like after like 2 blocks or 3 blocks already came out. And because it's actually from the mathematical optimization standpoint and point of view, this is a very hard mathematical problem to optimize. And so yeah, and so just having a bot that would somehow work, it's already great. And yeah, And so latency, I think, is not really important unless you are working on very like latency optimized chain. Because I think maybe on chains like Solana, it will be like a great deal because they're actually it's actually a high performance chain. On things like Arbitrum, for example, or Optimism, where you have to being I don't know about Optimism, but I remember that on Arbitrum you have to ping constantly their sequencer, so they will send you the latest state update about the Arbitrum state, so you can have the latest price on all the pools you're interested in. Oh, so the latency there was like a huge deal. And because the Arbitrum doesn't actually have any blocks, right? Yeah, so they're processing all these transactions in first in, first out order.
Actually, that is very interesting. I wanted to get into this L2 topic. So, what is gonna happen in these L2s? Because PBS eventually, like the proposer builder separation, is eventually not gonna come on these L2s, right? So, with having like a centralized sequencer, I think it's like taking a step back. So, what's your views on that?
Yeah, that's very interesting topic, and as you know, like a huge narrative in Ethereum space, and that there's some at some point there will be a shared sequencer, and so many like teams, I think, maybe not a lot of teams, but the ones that are doing it are very vocal, I guess, and a lot of people are talking about it. Is that yeah? We're like we right now we have centralized sequencer, but we will make a better one. So we're now focused on stuff that just works, but in the near future we'll work on that and we'll make a decentralized sequencer. Of course, I think that like centralized sequencer is a step back in terms of actually the crypto values, right, that I have in the industry. And the first of all this is decentralization, actually, and Arbitrum makes it all. Not Arbitrum, but most of L2s introduces a lot of compromises that makes like these values like non-existent, and so they're very centralized. In terms of PBS and all these auctions, I think that it's very we have to come a long way before it gets there. I don't think that PBS, like the flashbots themselves, are very targeted towards launching their systems on L2 because it's too far. It's too far before that point, so we can think about that. And so I think who will first will launch on such like L2s would be order flow auctions. For example, I already mentioned the wall chain. They are integrating right into the D apps, and so they're basically chain agnostic, and their system does not really depend on the settlement layer and on the execution layer, and so because they're integrating the system into the app, then users sense their intent to swap a transaction. They're connecting user to the searcher, and then searcher sends some kind of quote of how much MEV rebate they will give to the user back for their trade. So basically, there's searchers who are bidding for user trades, and then when user actually makes a transaction, it goes to the searcher first. Then the searcher executes its arbitrage. It goes to the searcher in an unsigned way. So the searcher actually doesn't have a raw transaction, so it can't execute it for the user. The user will have to execute the transaction himself. And yeah, so the searcher makes his own solution. It sends it to the wall chain auction, and the wall chain chooses the best solution among all the searchers that who bid on this user trade, and then they send the solution back to the user, and it's the user who sends the full transaction on chain. So it includes cold data, the wall chain gives to the user. And so this kind of auction, as I said, it's chain agnostic. It's there. I think they're already launched in Arbitrum. They launched on Binance Smart Chain, and I think they're live on like 7 chains already or something. And so they're looking for DApps to integrate with. Because that's the hardest part. So you have to you have to onboard actual DApp developers so they can integrate the Wallchains SDK into their UI. And that's very hard, would be very hard for like to integrate with the giants like Uniswap, right? Because Uniswap is like it positions itself as like very neutral enter, and so they're trying to make all their systems in-house without involving everyone from the side. So it would be very hard for these order flow auctions to integrate with the DDApps, but technically I think that's the only possible way to be live on L2s. So there's no other way such any kind of auctions would be able to integrate would be able to go live on these L2s. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, yeah. So now my next question would be like around enshrined PBS. So like currently, how is your relationship? Like how is one's relationship is like searcher and builder relationship right now? So searchers creates his bundle. Does he broadcast his bundles to all the block builders? Like how is that relationship? And then also like right now I have heard that there is in the MEV boost with MEV boost there is problem with centralized relayers, right? So how is that gonna change with enshrined PBS?
So I think that there's a huge room for improvement in the PBS design. And I think that Flashbots, like, they are doing a great job there. So they're like, and so currently, how does it work? So the searcher create their bundles. They're choosing builders to send it to. So they are not mandated to send their bundles to all builders that they can choose, they can pick, because being a builder is permissionless right now, right? And being a relay is permissionless too. So you can be an actor in all of these stages of pipeline. And so what that means is that we have every builder and every relay have no guarantees that they're actually not acting against searchers or against users, right? So you can become a builder, and for example, as we saw, you can unbundle blocks. Sorry, unbundle the bundles. And that's a huge deal for sandwichers because their main risk is the actual unbundling. Because they will hold an inventory in a token. That's usually a very illiquid token, and they would not like to have such kind of exposure. So they would like to have their bundle being atomic, and so builders does not have any guarantees that they're not acting against searchers. Relays have no guarantees. So there's so all of this pipeline is like based on trust, and it's like it's not a really provable trust, but the only proof of trust is history. So because of it's because it's a blockchain, we see who landed which block. We see the history, how which bundles were being sent to the builder, how builder has acted, how it's what it sent to the relay, etc. So most of this data is public, and so if someone is acting against someone else, so we'll see that. And that's the only reason why this pipeline works somehow, because because the only thing that makes searchers and builders and relays to be trusted is the history. So and then builders would build blocks with bundles that searchers have sent them. and then the blocks that they have built, they send it to relays. Relays are choosing the best block possible and send it to validators. And so I think the huge issue there that is widely discussed is that is that relays don't actually have a revenue model. So the relays are considered currently as a public good, and so to run a relay, it's very costly in operation-wise. So it's like hundreds of thousands of dollars per year to just run a relay, and so it's a huge issue because this is I think it's one of I think it's maybe the most important actor, because it's actually who decides which blocks should be included on chain, which blocks it propagates to all the validators, because validators do not decide on anything; they're just receiving blocks. And the validator is one who gives it, who makes a decision, and so it actually makes a huge. So it's an issue because there is a possibility that in the future, or there's like technical possibility and theoretical possibility that the relay can be bribed by builders. So this relay could choose the block that's not the best block in terms of revenue to validators, but it can choose the block that's best for revenue of the relay. So builders can include bribes not only to validators, as it currently happens, but they can also include bribe for the relay itself. So it would be actually a very sustainable model for relays, because now relays will be receiving also a part of this, of this distribution of MEV, because currently they receive nothing. They just exist and they're operating at huge losses. And so the way that we can front run this issue, as Flash does it with the original MEV problem, we can also introduce some kind of reward model to relays as well. So instead of them getting bribes undisclosed in an undisclosed way, that might happen. So it would be very easy to hide, for example, right? So the relay might get bribed, and it may change addresses, for example, very frequently, and we will not see that it's actually getting bribed, and it's acting against the whole system. But so we can actually make a legit reward model that would require sharing, that would make builders share a part of their revenue with relays as well, in a legit, transparent way. So that's, I think, the problem that people are discussing, and because that's one of the most, one of the greatest issues, I think, with the current BBS auction design. Yeah, so there's actually other direction to think about it, because there's not a lot of builders currently, right? So there's 4 major builders, or something like that, that are building blocks. It actually may happen that having relays is not it's not a requirement for this system to be live, right? So what builders can do is that they can integrate with relays, so they can run their own relays, for example, like Builder 69 or rsync or the Beaver build, major builders can create their own relays, right? And so there was a lot of talks that the builders are integrated with searchers. So this is called Searcher integrated builder, right? So there's vertical integration between searchers and builders. But now we can talk about like integration between builders and relays. So builder can integrate the relay into that, like their whole pipeline. And so that's actually, that would be, I think, a threat to decentralization, because because currently all the relays that are running are pretty neutral. Then they're neutral, that receive bundles from all builders that exist. But if major builders will run their own relays, and because they're all dominating the market, they will they will reach the same amount or the same number of validators that current neutral relays uh, have. And so they will be just keep dominating and actual neutral relays will die because they're operating at loss. But because builders will run their own relays, they will be like it will be profitable for them to run these relays. And validators will not care from who they will receive their blocks, from neutral builders or from neutral relays like now, or from biased integrated relays integrated into builders. So they will not care from who they will receive these blocks. And yeah, and so because neutral relays will die, there will be no room for future builders to come, because they will not only have to run their own builder, but they also will have to have like a relay that will have to acquire all the validators on Ethereum, and that's like impossible. So and we'll be stuck with all these like 4 builders.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's a huge like incentive like issue that we have currently. And so currently, for our own goods, it's purely theoretical. But things in MEV landscape moves really fast, I think.
Yeah.
And so because especially at the bull market, when the MEV is like this is becoming huge in volume.
Yeah.
All these incentives are like being accelerated and leveraged, and now like it may become like from theoretical issue to like real issue. And no one will be able to stop the builders who are dominating the market currently from integrating it, because yeah, like that's a permissionless system. Everyone can do whatever he wants, and so yeah.
Yeah, that's
So that
quite amazing. I've seen a lot of memes on Twitter as well that relays asking searchers and be like, "Hey, are you guys getting paid?"
They, yeah, I remember that. It was really
Yeah,
fun.
so that's really helpful. Okay, yeah, so yeah, I guess that was really insightful, and thanks for that. Also, okay, and also by discussing this, there is a lot of opportunities in the research space as well. As he mentioned that a lot of opportunities are there in this space. So if you are a researcher or someone, go into this space, learn about MEV, learn about these relayers. If you're a researcher, just give your advices how we can improve this space, and how you can create decentralization and make sure that decentralization is there. Okay, yeah, moving on to like last question. What are you bullish on in 2024, especially in terms of MEV, like right? I mean, Suave is coming from Flashbots. There was also Eigenlayer, Pepsi, right? So especially in the MEV space, what are you bullish on in 2024?
Yeah, so Suave is a very like discussed topic, because like everything that Flashbots did were quite like adopted very warmingly in the space. So everyone not liked what they did. For example, like I started my like Twitter journey with the threads that criticized Flashbots and their auction design, and because I didn't really like what they have done. Yeah,
First you criticize them and then you join them.
yeah. But then no one had a choice but to adopt this system because they have they have uh, become favorable by validators, and the validators they are the ones who are settling all the blocks, and so initially it was miners. So we searchers are very poor people in terms in terms that no one like listens to us. I mean,
Mm.
I mean, we are not crucial part of the system, so we are like replaceable. All the searchers. So one searcher goes away, the others will come. Because and that's why we are bidding like 90% of all our profits. So we are left with a very little like profits because we are at the very start of this supply chain. And so we are not the ones who are making decisions, right? So the builders will make their decisions, the relays will make their decisions, and then the validators who will make their decisions as well. But searchers, they're not making any decision. So yeah, everything that Flashbots did was quite adopted very well, and so they're working on Suave now. They're very focused on it, and so a lot of people are bullish on Suave because it's unionizes like all the auction between all the chains as they're staking. I don't think that it will be as adopted as the current PBS design, to be honest. So I'm not really, I would not say I'm bullish on Suave, to be honest. Because like current system, the current PBS design, while it's flawed, it's and it's very, it's a trusted pipeline, but we can improve that. As I mentioned, and it's an old working system. It's relatively transparent, and it's technically it's an easy system because it doesn't have any strong guarantees. It's an easy to implement, and so it's easy to participate in currently. And so, for example, our team is making Builder right now, and we were working on Builder like for since PBS came out. We just didn't have enough order flow, a private order flow to start and be competitive. But it's an easy system. But Suave, I think it's a different beast in terms of complexity. And it will be much more complex to actually implement and run, I think. And so much less people would understand all of the nuances of Suave. And so the flatbots will dominate the space again. And it would be very hard to actually decentralize, not in terms of like in theoretical terms, but it's just only Flashbot's team who will understand how Suave actually works. And so no one will be able to just easily build for all of this ecosystem, because the PBS ecosystem is very diverse. There's a lot of factors like on all of these levels. But Suave tries to unionize it and make it all into one integrated system. That will just work for everyone. But yeah, no one will actually be incentivized to implement it in the first place because they already have PBS. So, and Suave doesn't give any more revenue to validators. It doesn't give any more revenue to builders. It doesn't give any more revenue to almost everyone. So it makes the same job, but with more guarantees. But I'm not sure that these guarantees are demanded by all people that are actually in the MEV space. So I'm not I'm not saying I'm bullish on Suave. So what I'm bullish on, as I mentioned, is order flow auctions. So this so the one problem is that the huge part of the supply chain is currently mostly untouched. That's the interaction of users, wallets, and other order flow originators with searchers and builders. So because currently most of the order flow are still coming from public transaction pool. And but you know that there's already the most popular order flow auction called MEV blocker, right? That takes orders from users, and it actually bypasses all the mempool operations and gives these transactions to directly to builders privately. And so I think that's the last part of the supply chain that's relatively untouched, and the competition will shift from like competing among searchers and builders. It will shift to competing for users for user acquisitions directly.
Hmm.
So each party we would like to have the exclusive order flow to not compete with others in the public space. So they would like to acquire users directly from the apps or acquire users from for example, Telegram bots, trading Telegram bots, and like many order flow. There's many order flow originators that would be uh, that everyone would like to acquire and get the order flow from them. So that's what I'm bullish in 2024. So I don't think that's like a huge topic for newcomers because that's like, but in terms of the overall design and overall like ecosystem, I think that's an actual end game. And developments of these order flow auctions that would not be on auctions for the block space, but be the auctions for the actual users. I think that would be the major topic in the MEV space in 2024. So and I think that's a single the single topic that would be actually irrelevant because the current competition. The only thing that really matters, it's not the latencies, it's not uh, like anything else because it's an already it's an already explored because we usually say about like MEV that it's a dark forest, right? But
Yeah.
and the Flashbots came to like to give us a Latin that would like give to light this dark forest. But I think actually this dark forest is mostly explored already, like by the top teams especially, and there's almost no alpha left in the space. And so everyone are trying to shift the competition to unexplored areas, and the single unexplored area is the actual interaction with the user. So yeah, that's what I'm most bullish on 2024.
That's actually awesome. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I guess that was really insightful. So thank you so much for joining. Like this means a lot. And yeah, maybe in hopefully we will have another podcast where you can share more experiences, and maybe in 2025 you can come in again, share your experience in 24 whether your things you're bullish on was successful or not. But yeah, thank you so much for joining. And yeah, I will drop the link to your Twitter, so if anybody wants to follow, go and just follow him on Twitter.
Yeah, really like to chat. Thanks for inviting me. See ya.